Welcome to the Millsurf Mike channel. The video I had planned for this weekend is taking a little longer than I expected. I want to get the history right on that, because the history of it is important to me, and it's important to me to get it correct. And I want to do a really good job on that video just because it's from an area of history that I really respect. So to kind of get a video out there this week, I'm going to do another top 5 video. When I did the 5 videos on the rifles, the World War I rifles, the bottom, and then the top 5, those seem to get a lot of reactions, whether good or bad. The bottom rifles seem to get a lot more bad reactions because, I had some people's favorite rifles in there, and then of course the top 5 rifles, a lot of people were pissed off that the small E wasn't number 1. So anyway, I'm going to do the top 5 pistols of World War II. And I'm going to try to do this without waking up Boomer Fudd.
2 World Wars. My stopping power.
Because Boomer, he has some strong opinions on one of these pistols, and I really don't want to wake him up and hear from him about it. So anyway, let's do the top 5 World War II pistols. Now, first of all, there's going to be no revolvers on this. World War II, there's plenty of semi-auto pistols out there. There's plenty of great designs out there that there's really no excuse for a major power to have a revolver as your main sidearm. Sorry, Great Britain. Also, the caliber's got to be decent. So to me, that's 9mm parabellum or above. Or if it's not 9mm parabellum, at least it's got to have some, has some juice behind it. So with that last statement, you can probably tell which one of these pistols I'm also talking about is going to be on this list. Also, I want to have a regular slide release when it comes to, or regular magazine release, behind the trigger. Like modern pistols, I don't like heel releases, although I will make an exception on one of them. And so anyway, let's just go before I explain this way too much. Now, first of all, I'm going to do an honorable mention. And all these pistols, with the exception of one, and the one I am working on a video for it, I have made videos on them in the past. I might make videos on them again, but I will overlay the thumbnails when I get to these pistols and the dates that I did them, so you can search through my content and find them, because some of these videos are demonetized, and if I link them below, it might demonetize this video. So anyway, let's get going. I'm going to have an honorable mention because, one, it doesn't meet the 9mm criteria, and it also has a heel release, but it is a damn reliable, simple pistol. Like I said, it has a heel release, doesn't have a regular release behind the trigger. The Beretta 1934. Tullio Marangoni was a genius. He worked for Beretta. He's the one who basically created the Beretta pistol line, even as we know it today for the most part. Well, except these, the more modern ones like the APX or the PX4. But Marangoni was a genius when it came to pistols. Simple pistol. As I said in my video, it's stuck with Spockins. Complexity is easy, simplicity is difficult, or something to that effect. But anyway, very good little pistol. You wouldn't turn your nose up at. And Allied troops, when they were able to get these, they were a prized possession because they made a nice little backup pistol. So anyway, this is an honorable mention, the Beretta 1934. Now let's get to the top 5 pistols. Number 5, and this isn't denigrating it any at all, but being number 5, like I said, this is my top 5 list, but the Soviet Tokarev TT-33. It has the release at the proper place, has a very capable round in 7.62 by 25 Tokarev, a very hot little round, which was really good when it came to going through layers of clothing in the winter fighting. And these could also shoot the 7.63 Mauser ammo that went into the broom handle Mauser. So that was a plus on these. So actually, kind of bad for the Soviets, good for the Germans. If the Germans picked one of these up and they had some 30 Luger, they can just pop it right in there and use it. So anyway, this is my number 5 Soviet Tokarev TT-33. Number 4, and the reason this isn't higher, and I know it's higher on many people's list, it's just because I don't have as much time shooting it, and I don't have that much experience with it. But once I do, maybe it'll go up a little higher. But it's a very well-made pistol, the VIS 35 Polish pistol, adopted by Poland in 1935, and then when the Germans took over, they made about 300,000 or 400,000 of these. And this is the video that I'm working on. I want to make sure I get the history right because I'm delving into some Polish resistance history on there, and that's an area of history that I respect because, I mean, that had probably some of the biggest badasses in the world was Polish resistance. But the VIS 35, it's based off the 1911, which is fairly obvious. It doesn't have a manual safety. This is actually a decocker. That was and I'll get into this in the video. That was requested by cavalry officers who, since it didn't have a safety, the only way to decock it was, you almost had to have two hands to decock it. If you shot it and you didn't want to leave it cocked, without any safety. So the cavalry requested a decocker. So I don't know if that was visible or not. So anyway, it has the same grip safety as a 1911. The reason I put this lower than 1911 is, well, Boomer would probably kill me if I put too many pistols above the 1911. Well, actually, he's going to kill me if the 1911 isn't number 1. I'm kind of scared, actually. Spoiler alert.
Stopping power.
But this is a 9mm 1911. It does avoid a lot of problems that modern 9mm 1911s, but I haven't shot it enough to experience that for myself. A lot of modern 9mm 1911s have problems because of feed angles, and it looks like the magazine was basically made to stay away from that problem. But some of the internals are a little different than 1911 also. So anyway, that's my number 4 pistol, and let's get on to number 3. Now, since it's only number 3, let's try not to wake Boomer, because this is gonna really piss him off that this is only number 3. And of course, you know what I'm talking about, the 1911. This has a 1918 serial number on it. It was re-arsenaled sometime in World War I or World War II. I mean, sometime in World War II or Korea, which is obvious by the Parkerization. This really needs no introduction. John Moses Browning, adopted on Valentine's Day, 1911. A lot of myth, a lot of truth, but great pistol. No one prior to the 1980s is really going to want to turn this down. 45 ACP, of course, stopping power. It's a good round. I mean, I went over the reason for going to 45, thanks to the 38 Long Colt in the Spanish-American War. So anyway, this is my number 3 pistol, the 1911. Number 2 and number 1. I'm sure you know which 2 are, because there's really only 2 left that they could be. It's hard for me to make a decision because I'm going to go with the Browning High Power at number 2, though, because 1, it wasn't really adopted by any, well, with the exception of Canada, it really wasn't adopted by any major power. This is a Nazi supervision high power. This has Waffen-Alps all over it, and I actually made 2 videos on the high power, one on the high power in general, and the other on this one, the German occupation high powers. So anyway, this, almost totally modern, decent capacity, 13 rounds. The, slide release in the same place. It, Of course, historically, people say John Moses Browning's last design, but really what was on his desk when he died in 1926 is a lot different than what ended up as the final product. And so I give Dieudonné Save a lot more credit for this than John Moses Browning. Dieudonné Save's a very underrated genius in the 20th century firearms. He also came up with the FAL. But the only reason that I don't make this number one, even though it's the first 1 or 9, is that it's still single action only. And I think for a truly modern pistol, you need double action, single action. Which is why, even though it has a couple faults, I'm making the P38 Walther number 1. This, the only thing that sucks about this is the heel release. Otherwise, this is a totally modern pistol without, lower capacity, but still, the single action, double action is the real kicker on this. So I'm going to show that it's. So you get single action, but you also have a double action, which none of the other pistols I presented have. The reason I'm making this number 1 is this is what the Beretta. Well, I went over that in the Beretta 51 video. Tullio Marangoni based the internals of that off the Walther P38, and of course there's really not much difference between the 51 and the Beretta 92 series and the M9. When I made this video, the video for this, I showed pictures of this strip next to these pictures of my M9 strip, and there's a lot of similarities. So that's the reason this is number 1. Very well built pistol. Even last ditch crappy quality. It was still a very well built pistol, and it survived as the P1 until the 1980s. So it survived a lot longer being made than most of these other pistols. The Tokarev was replaced by the Makarov, although I think that was a mistake. The 1911, even though that was the official pistol in the U.S. until the 1980s, they didn't make the U.S. military, I don't think, took a new one since the early 50s. They just kept recycling. They just kept recycling older pistols. The Vis, that was replaced by the Tokarev once the Soviets took over, even though, as a kind of a superior pistol. The Beretta 1934 actually did stay in the Italian military until the 80s, so that might have been the only thing that would have outlasted this, but this is, of course, much rather have this than the 1934. And then the high power, I guess the high power, I take that back. The high power definitely outlasted this, because I think it was the official British pistol until this century sometime, because the British finally adopted a semi-auto, and it was the high power in 1957. So anyway, this is the number 1. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm gonna end this now before I wake up Boomer. If you like what you see, please comment, share, like, and subscribe. YouTube, that really helps out with YouTube's algorithms. Also, please join the GOA, and there's a link in my description to get $5 off your membership. And no, I don't take a kickback. This isn't the NRA. I don't get a kickback on that. So anyway, thank you for watching. And as always, have a great day.
Wait, boy, did I just hear that you didn't have the 1911, the gun that won 2 world wars, as number 1?
No, Boomer. No. I'm going to show you some stopping power right now.